to thank you for joining me today. I love your performances that I've seen, and I'm super excited to have you on. And so, to start off, before we jump into your current production and some of your past productions, I want to talk a little bit about your career leading up as an actor. And so, you're from Armagh. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Armagh.
Irma?
Yeah. And so you graduated from the Royal Conservatory in Scotland in 2018. And so how did your experiences there help improve the artist you are today?
Awesome. I think I've just clicked. I was like, I'm from Armagh. So I was like, Armagh? And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah.
Give me names, man. Come on.
Yeah. I'm throwing you in the deep end there, man. How do you pronounce these weird Irish
It's
towns?
okay.
Yeah, the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. I auditioned for multiple drama schools. I particularly wanted to go. We have drama schools in the UK that are like accredited. So basically, they're sort of like well known as sort of being respected. And so I was very particular that I wanted to go to one lem. If I was going to do it, I wanted to go to one lem, and I knew it'd be harder to get into. And when I was auditioned twice. I did 2 years of auditions. And the first year I actually auditioned for like classical theatre, so like Shakespeare and Greek and all that sort of stuff. And very quickly got moved towards doing musical theatre, which is great because I loved musical theatre. I just didn't think I was a good enough singer for it. And then, and Royal Conservatoire of Scotland wasn't even my first choice. But when I actually went to do my interviews, I just fell in love with the school. So it became my top choice. Um, and ultimately, I think what it taught me was the power of the power of failure, the power of like, um, I suppose to compare it to like America. Obviously, like you guys have Broadway in New York, and it's all the hype is around that. That's this whole thing, and here we have London and the West End. So getting to study in Scotland, you were kind of like secluded, and you were able to make mistakes, and you were able to do bold choices and be a bit stupid. That allowed me to like get comfortable with failing because it's only through failure that we can get better. If we start being really scared, I think as actors or as creatives or just people in general, I think that we suddenly start to limit ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. That's incredible. And so when you were younger, was there a specific moment that really clicked for you of when you wanted to join theater?
Oh, there was a specific moment when I fell in love with theater, but I actually wouldn't even say that I fell in love with theater. I fell in love with one particular show, and so my love for theater was just resolved around one show, which was Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, fan of that, of course.
Yeah, I was in Spain, and a bunch of holiday reps basically enacted the show on stage. I was about 5 years old, and they didn't even sing it, they just mimed to the original soundtrack. But 5 year old me was just like, "Oh, this is amazing." So I loved Phantom. And it wasn't until I was 14, 15 that I decided to do my school musical. And when I did my school musical, I did my first one. And I was like, what was that? Calamity Jane. And I was just in the ensemble. And I had a great time doing that. And then in my final year of high school, I did Annie. And I played Rooster.
That's such
And
a
I was picking.
such fun role.
Oh mate, it's absolutely so much. I'd love to do it now, but it's also like such a dancey
Yeah.
role. Whereas when we did it, obviously it wasn't. They were just like, "Oh, is there any boys who can sing?"
Yeah.
So it was great. But yeah, and then I was meant to go on to do like go to college and stuff, and just as we were talking about actually, like, but in our schooling system, you finish high school and you go and you either do like your A levels or you do your B Tech, and then that eventually leads you on to go on to university or whatever you want to do. And I was planning to like work towards like criminology, or I didn't really know what I wanted in life. And then I did Rooster in Annie, and I said to my mum, I was like, I think this is what I want to do. And she'd also got me into some amateur dramatic stuff, and I just was like, it was the only thing that really brought me a lot of joy. So I ended up going on doing a B Tech and stuff after that, and which slowly led to me being like, I'm gonna pursue this.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. That's crazy because here in the US, right after high school, you're going to college. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's no different levels. That's crazy. And so you were in the 50th anniversary cast of Jesus Christ Superstar and the original West End cast of Bonnie and Clyde. And so, what did these shows do for you as a performer, and how did these shows? Because both super well known, and so how did they
Yeah.
like improve your craft and get you better as an artist?
Um, Bonnie and Clyde was a really, really fun one because I was a swing and I was also a cover. And so I had the really, really fortunate experience that I had to learn every single male role in Bonnie and Clyde, particularly the first time round, because I even covered Ted the first time round. But then the second time I did it, I didn't cover Ted. I just covered Clyde and Buck, and then all the ensemble parts. And what it did for me was when I went into Bonnie and Clyde, particularly, I really wanted to play Clyde. Clyde was one of my absolute dream roles. It was like my audition song for drama school. It was my showcase song that I used to showcase myself to agents and stuff. So I was like Clyde, 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 Clyde. But I ended up playing Buck far more than I played Clyde, just because I was first cover Buck and second cover Clyde. And what I learned was that I loved Buck. I preferred playing Buck to playing Clyde. I think because I loved the idea of. I'd always rebelled against the idea of that. I always said that I wasn't good at comedy. And then I did a play called The 39 Steps, which really taught me a lot about comedy. And it was
Oh, my,
Buck
my
that.
local theater did it. Yeah, so funny.
Yeah, it's such a good play. And I played one of the clowns in that. And I was like, I said on my first day of rehearsals, I was like, I don't do accents and I'm not very funny. And I was playing this character that had to do lots of different accents. And it was an amazing opportunity. And again, it was in Germany, so it was a bit out of the way. But then when I was playing Buck, what I learned about Buck and what I learned that I think really changed the way I view acting as a whole is that comedy and drama, there is no difference. Like, it depends very much on the show. But again, I think a lot of the shows that I've done, the comedy is for the audience, but the character is very sincere. And it's the more sincere it is for the character, the more truthful, the more dramatic it is for the character, the funnier it is for the audience. The more those lines land, like if we take Bonnie and Clyde and you have like Buck, you're going back to jail. The comedy is that Buck's not in on the joke. This is really serious. We're not messing about here, and it's that push and pull between him and Blanche that makes it funny, because we know as an audience he's not winning this argument. So the more he pushes, the bigger it gets. The more that we see him start to crumble, the funnier it is. But for him, you're kind of playing a dramatic scene at the same time. Whereas I think Jesus Christ Superstar was the opposite, which was the biggest challenge for me in Jesus Christ Superstar was the stillness. I'm quite even like now just talking like I'm a very frantic and frenetic, like I'm bum 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 bum. And Jesus as a character was not that. And the way that show is written leaves so much up to interpretation. And I was going through quite a lot personally at the time that role became like a massive. It was a bigger step for me as a person, I think, than as a career step. Just like the lessons I learned, but also as an actor, being able to go, here's this really famous character that can be interpreted so many different ways, and there's so many different ways you can sing it, and just being like encouraged to not copy someone else and pick your own path of it. And the scary thing about something like Jesus Christ Superstar, people are going to love it, people are going to hate it. No matter what you do, no matter who you copy, no matter what path you decide to take with it. So the only thing you can do is pick the one that's most truthful to you. And I can't control what the audience think, which was a lesson that would then go on to really help me in stuff like 42 Balloons.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that makes a good segue because speaking of 42 Balloons, you played Larry last year and the year prior in the UK. And so, what was it like playing this role, and what was it like bringing the role to the US last year?
Um, I love that role. I love that role. I think that the difference between playing Larry compared to Buck and Clyde Barrow is that Larry is a much more recent individual. You know, he's a real man, and he lived, and passed away in the 90s, and like that's a very, very recent history. There are people alive today that have connections to this man who witnessed these events, and so there's a lot more pressure, I think, to play that person with sincerity and truthfulness, and ensure that not only are you doing well in the context of the show, but you're honoring the memory of someone who came before, and you're being as truthful to that person as you can. I think the main difference, though, with bringing it over to America is, well, one, it's really scary performing in America, especially in an American accent when you're not American,
I was gonna say
because
you
you're
hide
like,
it really well. Like
oh, great, awesome, because you are like, oh, these
it's
lads are
fun.
gonna
I'm
see
like,
right through me.
like during intermission, I turned to my dad. I'm like, he's British.
Yeah, it's literally, it was like, it was that thing of it was just really, really fun to do that, and it was really cool because we did have an accent coach there who would watch the show, and essentially would be like, there's these certain vowels or these certain words where it's giving away your Irishness, like, and an audience member in America will just, it won't be like they'll go, oh, he's from here, but it's just a little sound that will make them go, oh, what was that?
Yeah.
And so we worked a lot on that. But the other thing with Larry over here is that, and maybe I'm generalizing, so please correct me if you think I'm wrong. But I think America, there's such a culture of like the hometown American hero. This like idea of like, oh man, like going out and grabbing it, like, and there's a much more uh, there's a patriotism to it of idolizing these people and like these American heroes, and chasing the dream and the American dream, and so like I think bringing the show, because obviously the second act, whereas that is very much the first act, the second act is a dissection of that and what does that all mean. So I was really just intrigued to see how Americans would react to it.
Yeah.
And in the end, the way Americans reacted and British audiences reacted were completely different. And it was one of my the best. It was one of the reasons I loved speaking to people at Stage Door, because there would always be so many opinions, and I would have different questions and different conversations every single night, and that meant something to me.
Yeah, for sure. And so you performed in the show for 2 years in London and in Chicago. And so was there a specific moment you look forward to performing each night when you were performing as Larry?
Well, I was always glad whenever Big Balloon was done, because that just terrified me every night. I was like, oh god, the hardest song is right at the beginning. Um, I think for
That's really
me,
a big number too. Like that's one of your big numbers. Yeah.
yeah, it's. I think it's people have asked me what's harder, Big Balloon or Gethsemane, and I go, damn, that's a tight battle, because Big Balloon is just so much running around. But both numbers have the same fear that as soon as you go slightly off, like as soon as you like either have used too much breath or you've done this or you've done something silly, oh god, the whole song becomes a nightmare. Um, and now I forgot the question. Oh, there's a bit that I look forward to every night. End of Act One, without a shadow of a doubt. I think from the end of Countdown to the end of Act One, I think are, to me, some of the most perfectly scored moments. That moment of at the end of Countdown where they're all getting ready, and Larry and Carol, me and Evie have always enjoyed from the get go of doing like the concept stuff. Like the Larry and Carol turn on the radios. Like it's like a
Oh,
really rocky moment.
yeah.
And just all the countdown, and like the Larry gives the order, Carol watches as the launcher leaves the ground, and then that moment of silence. And
That was one of my favorite moments in the show. Like just how it's
yeah,
loud, 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 and then silent. Yeah.
and what I loved about it, particularly in almost every single production of it, because I've done 3 versions of it now, and the show changes drastically each time because it's still constantly being worked on. But that moment of silence, because I think the show is so high spectacle, particularly the American version. I think the American version was the biggest spectacle version that we've done. But even the stripped back concert performance that we did, that moment when everything just fades out and it's just Larry's voice and it's just him having this slowed down moment in time of like everything I have ever wanted is coming true. He's not even in the sky yet. He's only a couple of inches off the ground, but just that moment of like, there is not a part of me that is touching the ground now. I am already beginning to fly. And that's a moment of pure elation. It's not when he's in the clouds. It's not when he can't see anyone. It's just the moment of like anti-gravity. And I love that. And then my second favorite moment is the bit when he's in the chair flying above. And it's just, again, it's another little moment of isolation. And I think for Larry as a character in that production, he's very much like, if Carol is like the grounded heart of the show and the ensemble are this like high spectacle thing, sort of like stylized, ethereal thing, Larry is this connecting tissue. And my favorite moments are the moments when he gets to just, where that connecting tissue, even though it's high style and even though it's a bit crazy, is completely grounded in some sense of reality.
Yeah, for sure. And so currently you are starring in Avenue Q in the West End. And so when it was first announced that it was coming back, what was your reaction and what was the audition process like?
So it was really cool. I did an interview recently, and I stand by my point. My two cast members were like, "Oh my gosh, I must be seen for this," and I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to watch that." Because I was like, I can't do puppetry, and also, you know, again, it's a very comedic show, and like I'd played comedic parts before, but I felt like my career was always kind of playing these sort of average Joe characters with usually like some sort of dark side or something buried. You know, across shows, I feel like that's kind of been my connective tissue. Um, and Avenue Q wasn't that, and I thought like, I don't know, I didn't expect to get brought in for it, but I did get brought in, and you know, I was like, oh well, there's nothing better than auditioning for a show you love.
Yeah.
Because you just get to go in and sing all this. People are basically like, we really want to hear you sing this stuff that you like, and you're like, awesome.
Yeah.
But the audition process was crazy. It was maybe one of the craziest audition process I've done, because I was also, so for the first two rounds I was in London, and then the next couple of rounds I was in Torquay, which is like the south of England. It's right by the sea. I was doing a panto down there, which basically meant that I had to travel for my auditions, and often because the final couple of rounds were when we were in tech, and I wasn't allowed out of tech.
Yeah.
I basically had to get the earliest audition, which was usually at around 9:45 in the morning, and I would usually have to like get a train at about 4 o'clock in the morning. Not much different than the time you're at now, and travel up, and then just do this audition and travel all the way back to then do like a 12-hour tech day or with a performance in the evening. And it was mental. But essentially the way that the process worked, the first round we were called in and we did scenes from the show. Did we do songs? Yeah, we did. I did If You Were Gay, and I basically did the scene that leads into it that's on the album, which was great because it meant I didn't have to really learn it because I kind of already knew it in the back of my head. But it was primarily to see if we could do the voices. And then we did School for Monsters reprise, and I did a scene for Trekkie, and I can't remember what the scene was now. But it was just to see if you could do the Trekkie voice, and they basically were there to sort of give you direction to see if you could do the voices. Yeah, it was a scene before School for Monsters, so it was the whole like, no, 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 go away, me busy now, all that sort of stuff, and then the second round was a 3-hour puppetry workshop.
Wow.
Where basically we didn't have any material of the show, but we went in with this guy who'd worked with Jim Henson, and he basically taught us puppetry for 3 hours, and at the end of it we were told certain people, and even the humans had to do it. So even the people auditioned for like Brian and Christmas Eve and Gary all had to do the puppetry workshop. And then after that there was meant to be another round where it was basically like a one-on-one with the associates to sort of work on your scenes with the puppets. I unfortunately missed this round because I had got the wrong day in my diary.
Oh.
So travelled the whole way up to London only to realise I couldn't make it. I was very upset and very peeved off at myself. But lucky enough, the next day I was available, and the amazing creative team did a Zoom with me, where we basically we did it all. I didn't have a puppet, so I was just doing this with my hand, sort of like sock puppeting. And I sort of got to run through the materials and the most common notes that people were being given. And then I went to my final, which was with, all the producers and the director and stuff. And I ended up also having to do an extra round over Zoom
Wow.
because essentially, what was I kind of told? Essentially, what it was that most of the team knew that they wanted me, and the biggest fear about me was that my puppetry was not at the level of other people because I'd missed that round. So they wanted to do this so I did an hour Zoom with Jason Moore, just like working on the scenes and doing all the puppetry and stuff, and we just chatted absolute nonsense. It was a really good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was quite a long process, but it was really cool. And puppetry is amazing, and I can't recommend it enough as a fun like skill or hobby, whatever you want to take it up as, because it's a hoot.
Yeah, for sure. And so with Avenue Q, this is a very well-known show. At least here in the US, it's like super popular and stuff. And so what is it like getting to bring this story to the stage and play such a great character as well?
Um, yeah, it's so much fun. I think that there's just the belief that like the show is really dated and there's this and that and the other. And don't get me wrong, like there are elements of the show that are dated, but I think that actually the messages of the piece aren't dated. I think that it's more that we have, as a society, we have more language now to discuss these things. I think, we spoke a lot in rehearsals about everyone's a little bit racist because it's like, um, because it's one of those ones where um, we have so much more terminology now to talk about things like race, and there are certain lines that haven't aged well, and certain gags that haven't aged well. And lucky enough, Jason and the creatives worked really extensively with our Christmas Eve to make that character, you know, feel more in fitting with the way that like we would want that character to be seen nowadays. Where basically, she has a lot of she's a great character, and there's a lot going on. And also with like certain lines and like everyone's a little bit racist. Like one of the lines that we had changed was everyone stop being so PC. And to like everyone stop being so extreme. Essentially because PC is like such a weaponized term over here, very much used to be like, oh, they're so woke, they're so PC. And so we were like, if you keep that line in, this song immediately leans a very political way that was not the intention of the song. Because the song is essentially like we all have subconscious bias, which is a very hard lyric to fit in, and you can't really cut the song because the song's so famous. So it was all about finding ways that we could still walk that line of satire, but still be able to keep to the original sort of shock of it all. But playing stuff like Nicky and Trey, like, you know what I mean? If You Were Gay goes down a hoot every night. Um, because there's still going to always be people who like coming out as a difficulty for, because there's still, even though it's less difficult than it was maybe in like 2000, well, definitely in 2006, and it's more accepted now, there's still people who struggle. That's a really difficult thing to do. Um, but yeah, and Trekky's Trekky, man. Trekky hasn't changed. Trekky's just beloved, and I love that. I love that character to pieces. Anytime I get a social media or an interview and they're like they want to interview Trekkie, I'm like, awesome. This is
Yeah.
going to be a hoot.
Yeah, because I saw Mickey Joe recently do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was really fun actually because I think we were quite nervous because it was the first time we'd really done a quite a long interview with the puppets, but I just think my tactic was, what was it? How like if I describe how we did it, like Emily who plays Lucy kind of like actually did it like an interview, and the improv is phenomenal. Noah kind of got the questions and took a little moment to think, and then would be like, okay, cool, I'm ready. And I just sort of took over the interview. I stole the
Yeah.
microphone and was
Yeah.
like, I'm just going to take control of this.
Because I've actually had Mickey on my podcast a couple months ago.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's a really lovely guy. It's like I've known him primarily through balloons because he's such an advocate for balloons. He's a lovely dude. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, along with being on stage, you were also in the Apple TV Prime Target. And so, what was it like jumping from being on stage to doing an Apple TV show?
Okay, yeah, this was cool. It was really fun because Apple TV obviously have a lot of money, and in London in particular, you know, theater is sort of treated like it's all glitz and glamour, and then you start doing it and you realize it's really not. Like a lot of the buildings are really old, and it's part of the joy. I think I love how like when you like even like if we take the Shaftesbury where Avenue Q is, and I went to go see Just for One Day there. I've seen a couple of things there, but Just for One Day was the most recent, and like it's just it's such a lovely theater. And then you get backstage, and it's not that it's not lovely, but you can see how old it is. It
Yeah.
feels much older, and I love that. But then doing something like Prime Target, like I remember I had to get I had this like wig and contact lenses, which were all like specially made. So I had to go to like get this wig made. I had to go and get all these contact lenses put in my eyes. So basically, this was one of my favorite things. So I used to wear glasses, and I went to this specialist contact lens place to get all these different colored lenses, basically to like make sure that my eyes matched the older actor, Stephen Ray, absolute icon. But what was hilarious was I found out that I didn't need glasses. I had 20/20 vision. So some company basically just told me I needed glasses so they could make money off me. But and I wondered why I used to get headaches. Just thought I wasn't wearing them enough. But basically I would have these like blacked out cars picking me up from my flat and being driven 2 to 3 hours. Like when we did the filming, I was in rehearsals for Annie Get Your Gun, and I finished rehearsals, jumped straight in the car, and then had this like 3.5 hour car ride in this really bougie car, and I was like, well, this is nice.
With life.
I wish my life was like this all the time. But yeah, it was just crazy. And the same actually when I auditioned for the role, because Stephen Ray was already set to play it, and Stephen Ray is obviously from Northern Ireland as well. I was doing it in my own accent, and then during probably about a month or two before I was to shoot my scene, they were like, Stephen's decided he's doing it in English RP, so we're going to get you an accent coach. And what would then happen, this was also just awesome. Again, so much money. It was we would get sent scenes that Stephen had filmed, and basically this guy was informed about how Stephen wanted to play the character, and him and the director had agreed on. And we would watch these scenes and we go, okay, so this is the history of the character. This is like his through line. This is what his accent is, and we're gonna take that accent and we're gonna age it down like 50 years. And also have it like being inflected by like this character's like living standards. And it was just amazing. It was so exciting to get to develop the voice and make sure that it was in line with who Stephen believed that character was, so that it all played into this sort of creative vision. It was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And so, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Um God, this is so generic, but I just think it's the most truthful one, which is just, be yourself. It's the Oscar Wilde quote, and it be yourself. Everyone else is taken. I spoke to someone recently and who asked me for advice with auditions, and I was like, I think no matter what the audition is, like the advice is the same, which is don't try to be somebody else to appeal to what somebody might want or somebody else's standard, because at the end of the day, you don't know what they want. You're not in control of that. You're only in control of you. And I think like even just sort of talking about these roles that we've talked about, the lesson has been for me has always been the more that you are intrinsically yourself, your beliefs, and not to say that you can't be challenged. You should be challenged on those, and because that means that you grow to be a more rounded person. But truly being yourself in every capacity, just in your day-to-day life, but also if you are an actor or creative, bringing that to it, because there is no one who can be more you than you. And if people then that means I think that you draw people who want to be like you, or who want to like you, who admire you for who you are instead of who you're trying to be. And it's just the if I could tell myself that, and also more importantly, get myself to listen to it, which I probably wouldn't have. Oh, my life would have been much easier.
Yeah, for sure. And so this next question kind of ties into the last one, but what advice would you give to younger performers who want to pursue acting as a career?
Just eat it all up. Eat up every form of art you can. Books, manga, comic books, anime. Just digest everything. And not just the modern stuff, but the old stuff. Like take it all in, and ultimately, at the end of the day, be whatever side of the creative table you want to be on, front stage, backstage, whatever it is. Like just be yourself. Bring your version to it. There's a really good interview with Bryan Cranston where he talks about that, and it's like you bring your version to it, and then you collaborate with others, right? Like when I go into an audition, I go, "This is my version of the character," and then does it align with the director's vision? No, okay, I'm not the right person for the job, and that ain't personal. It's not about my talent. It's not about this. It's not about that. We just don't line up. And even if we do line up, no two people line up perfectly. So then it becomes about the collaboration. It becomes about the push and pull. But ultimately, my advice for young performers is be yourself, love what you love, be passionate about what you love, and bugger anyone who says that you shouldn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep, so that's good advice. And that actually wraps up the interview today. I'd like to thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.